आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरूणामाकृतिं स्मरतेन विघ्नप्रणश्यन्ति सिद्धन्ति च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीतरमुतनितरामितरानपेक्षं मृद्वयं निगमशक्तिशिखा प्रवालं हैरन्तमं गुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिभ्रं विघ्नाद्रिभीतशतधारधुरन्धरनः सर्वेषां स्वागतं हरि ओम् Welcome to the Saṃskāra session for the 19th shloka. So, in the 19th shloka, we are seeing Shruti Pramana Abhivinashita, yasa Katam Bhavishyatyapi Karyakarini Vijnana Amalad Advitiyataha Tasmada Vidyana Punarbhavishyati. So, the concept that we are going to look at from this verse is a little vast and it's very complex also because the thought has been developed for over 1,000 years. That is, there is a literature, there is literature of 1,200 years about that. And then it also has the backing of Vedas, which is backing, I don't know, thousand more, 3 or 4 thousand years before that. So when we are talking about the concept of Advaita, so we are talking about Vijnana Matrad Amala Advitiya, so Advaita, something that is non-dual. So this concept of non-dualism, it has the source of Vedantas. So it is from the Vedantas. General orientation to Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, it includes the 4 Vedas. The 4 Vedas has 6 Vedangas, which is studied for effective learning of the Vedas. So when we learn the Vedangas, we'll be able to understand the Vedas better. Using the knowledge of the Vedas, after sometime after the Vedas originated, there were different rishis who contemplated on the conceptual knowledge of the Vedas, and they were able to give us a certain practical uh, elemental knowledge. So there comes the darshanas. They showed us a particular sadhana through a particular method. So, whatever has been given in the Vedas about the creation that was experienced by Adimuni Kapila, and he experienced it in the form of Sankhya philosophy. So, Sankhya comes first, and then Yoga, and then Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and then Purva and Uttara Mimamsa. The Uttara Mimamsa is purely based on the Jnana Kanda of the Vedas, and therefore it is solely, I would say, based on the Upanishad Praman. Therefore, it is very close to spiritual understanding, and the spiritual understanding, it was propagated by Badarayana, Vyasa, and Rishi Badarayana wrote something called as Brahma Sutras. These are 555 sutras about the nature of Brahman. The concept and the entity of Brahman is explained through this particular Brahma Sutras. And these sutras was later on, as in after he writes it, later on, it has been inquired, it has been analyzed, and interpretations have been made. In that, through the interpretations, then what happens? Certain simpler philosophies of or sampradayas have come out. In that, one of the most popular one was Advaita. So Advaita, the three important people that we need to remember is Bhagavad Gaudapada. He was the first person to write a bhashya. Bhashya is an elaborate explanation of the sutras. So he is the first person to write the Bhashya for Brahma Sutras. So he becomes the most important person because he is probably the first of our acharyas to put the concept of Advaita on through scriptures, through his explanations. That means giving it a more concrete, definite form. So then his Shishya is Acharya Govindapada, and then it comes Adi Shankaracharya. So the concept of Advaita was given a more analytical expansion through Adi Shankaracharya. And it is important to know that because the text is a little belonging to that literature. So what happens is there is a huge repository of literature. So in that huge repository, because there are thousands of years of literature, some literature falls into certain categories. That means it falls into certain philosophy. Some fall into another philosophy, and then some fall into another philosophy. So it is very difficult to say when these philosophies came by. The origination, it is not up to us, because if we say non-dualistic theory is old, we will find Bauddha Dharma also has some elements that has similar concepts on board. If we say Dvaita came after Advaita, then the Sankhya philosophies are one of the first philosophies which speaks about Dvaita. So technically, we cannot place them in any chronological order. But speaking of Advaita, we have to understand what the philosophy is, because the script, the text that we are going through, analyzing, that is Sri Rama Gita, is in that nature of supporting Advaita. And therefore, we need to understand it, because then comes Jnana Karma Samuchayavada. Again, see, Jnana Karma Samuchayavada is a Vada that specifically belongs to Vishishtadvaita. Again, what happens is there has been khandana of that Vada over here. So what happens through scriptures, these are literature that exists where the Shishya, Guru Shishya Parampara, they would argue, and the other opposing side would argue, would give a rebuttal. They would argue against something, these people would give a rebuttal. Like that, there is more than 1,000 years of literature built up. That is from the origination, that is I'm saying. That is, as we have put it into a proper, maybe Advaita was a part of our whole Shastras, but not in its own. That means it was mentioned somewhere, like it was mentioned as a nature or a characteristic of Brahman, or the philosophy was like that. So the analytical literature begins from Adi Shankara, who took it exclusively, Advaita itself, and he made it so popular because he used to go around the whole of Bharata, and he used to do Shastrartha. And in that, he has propagated, he has advocated for this philosophy. Same way, what happens around 100 something years later, we will find Bhagavan Ramanujacharya doing the same, not same, but he advocated for Vishishtadvaita, qualified dualism. There too, he also made it popular because most of the karmas, the Vaidika karmas, the relevance of Vaidika karmas today is through Vishishtadvaita, because most of the temples operate through Sri Vaishnavite methodologies. So he gave um, the Agama Shastras a sthana of its own, and he gave the essence of karmas, the Vaidika karmas. He restored them. It used to be there before, because these are all from the Vedas. But from a new philosophical thought, when we are establishing one school of philosophy, then when it starts to become the new trend, then people would question an existing state. So then there would be some restoration of certain work, saying that no, we were doing it for like this, a new interpretation is going to be given. So like that, Vishishtadvaita became relevant. And then further, we will see another 100 something years, or maybe even less than that, we will find that Dvaita again reposed its thought, saying that it was again, Dvaita was also there, but again analytical beginning for Dvaita, or its beginning as a separate school of philosophy also begin with Sriman Madhvacharya, with him giving the argumental base for the Dvaita philosophy, that is Sarvamula. So from that, we find that this is the fundamental understanding of how the three sampradayas have begun. It is that it does not end over there. The thought expands. There are six schools. We have Shuddha Advaita, and then we have Bheda, and one more school. I think Achintya. I'm not sure. So we have six schools of it. So what happens is, but the reason why we say three sampradayas is because the other three being extension of it. We'll find Shuddha Dvaita by Sri Vallabhacharya is an extension. He's refining the thought a little more of Advaita, Shuddha Advaita. Then like that it goes on, where the Dvaita is also gets a little more expanded, and it gets more refined when it comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintyavada. And then we have Bheda, Nimbarkacharya. Again, these become the extensions of the three existing sampradayas itself. So therefore, there is no special consideration given to them. There are three schools of thought, but the vikasana of these thoughts go on after years, centuries of existence, and centuries of Vagvada. So in that, we find that Advaita, the third person we have to remember with respect to Shuddha Advaita is the Sri Vallabhacharya. Now, when we think about the whole tradition, the reason why we talk about Acharya Traya, that means when we talk about the three important, the whole schools of philosophy, we only consider three, and then we consider the Acharya Trayas, that is Adi Shankara, and then Bhagavan Ramanujacharya, and then Sriman Madhvacharya, is because these are the only three Acharyas who have given Shruti Pramana. That means officially given a bhashya to the Prasthanatrayis. Prasthanatrayis include three important sources of our ancient knowledge. That is, one is the Upanishads, second one is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and then we have Brahma Sutras, which is the knee, the foundation of this Uttaramimamsa. So therefore, they have these three are the only acharyas who given a commentary, that is the interpretation, and given a source why they have interpreted it to these three sources, Prasthanatraya. That is the reason these are the three people who are basically considered as acharyas, because the name acharya carries much more weight than anybody who's teaching. So therefore, out of the six schools that we know, these three are the most important one. The rest are extensions. So if we understand the three, then we are able to expand further on those philosophies. Now coming to Advaita specifically, the concept is simple, where a dualistic thought that there is a Purusha and a Prakriti exists, where Purusha is the Chaitanya, which is nothing but the energy, and then Prakriti is Jada, which is dense matter, and then a Sayoga between the two is leading to some kind of Vikrati. So yoga between the two, when they start to merge together, they lead to certain kind of manipulations, which gives rise to Mahat, which gives rise to sense of Ahankara, and then further it goes into Panchabhutas, Panchatanmatas, etc., etc. That means a Sharira is born. So this is a dualistic thought where we try to separate the elemental forms. Whatever is the foundation of the creation, that elemental forms we are trying to separate. So dualistic philosophy, the understanding is simply that there are two basic elemental forms, the merger of which gives rise to the creation. But Advaita is a little different. Advaita says there is no two elemental forms, there is only one fundamental form, that is called as Brahman. Now, here the understanding is simply that um, the world that we live in, that the Jagat is Maya. How does that argument comes about? It is simply that I experience some Vastu Vishesha in this world. Now, whatever emotion is invoked due to that emotion, feeling, whatever, if I'm holding this, if I hold this, I'm feeling the something, the touch, etc., etc., etc. All those things are coming to me due to this Vastu Vishesha. Now, if I say the source of the information, like for example, this is black. If this is black, then that is Varna, Varna, the color, Rupa. It has a shape, etc., etc. If this, I say I am understanding these things, that is the concept of shape or the concept of color through this Vastu Vishesha, then it is, then it should, I can also understand the same thing in dreams also. In Swapnavastha, what happens is I tend to manifest things that I haven't even seen. I may have just heard of. So my prajna is such that it tries to manifest something based on the information. So I'm able to understand the same qualities, attributes that I haven't actually physically met. There is no Sanikarsha. Nonetheless, I'm able to understand these kind of things. So the question arises, are these qualities a result of the Vastu Vishesha, or are these independent? Because I'm able to understand it whether the Vastu exists or not. A Shilpi is able to see the Shile long before he can, um, he has made it in a boulder itself. He's able to recognize what his this thing is going to be, what his sculpture is going to be, and then he starts to sculpt it. So in that sense, what happens, he has already understood what the shape is, what the size is, what the face is, what the features are, etc., etc., etc. So now the question arises, are the features being understood because they are a part of a shilpa, that is a sculpture, or are they independent in nature? So then the conclusion occurs that the understanding of these features are not because of the physical form, but rather because of the information, that is jnana. So it is anitya, the form is anitya, but the information, that is jnana, is nitya. So therefore, the only thing that is nitya is jnana. Therefore, there is a lot of emphasis on jnana. This is the jnana yoga, jnana path. So this is the concept of Advaita, where they say that the Brahman is the true jnana. And whatever we are seeing with respect to our creation, it is not the true nature. Then the question arises, what is creation? The creator, if we say, is the true knowledge. He is the reason for everything. So understanding him is it is not supposed to be through a sculpture. It is not supposed to be through a murti. It is independent of those forms. If we say all these things, fine. The understanding, it requires sadhanas, it requires further thought into what non-dualistic thought is. So we have the Ishvara being non-dual in form. We have the Brahman as a single entity giving rise to this creation. But then the question is, if we allow Vikritis, that means the concept in the dualistic form, there were Vikritis that is giving rise to samsara. Here, when we say Brahman does Brahman also have Vikritis? Advaita says no. There is no Vikritis in him. If we do not, he is in a pure form. The state of jnana is pure. There is no changes in him. If there is no changes in him, then what is this creation? That becomes an important question. For that, the reply is that this is the whatever is the creation, it is the reflection of the Brahman. And that reflection is being shrouded, it is being covered. The originality of that reflection is being covered by something called as ajnana. The concept of ajnana was given for this. So, when we are talking about Advaita, they are trying to say that there is a single source. There is a single source of the whole existence, that is Brahman. And that Brahman, he is not changing. That means there is no Vikritis in him. There he is pure. He is Jada. He is not moving. There is nothing in there. And we cannot experience any changes also. But unfortunately, the reflection of Brahman, it it requires, like for example, when we look at Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, uh, Krishna says, I'm going to give you that. Arjuna specifically asked for that chakshu. He says, I want that drishti through which I can experience your Vishwarupa. So, what is happening is that Brahman being the pure self, the non-changing self, it never changes. He is there. He is sarvavyapi. He is nirguna. So, from that stage onwards, there is no changes in him at all. Then what is leading to this samsara creation is that his reflection is being misconstrued or seen in a different way by us. It is seen in a different way by us because of our ajnana. We are not able to see him. So the true nature of Brahman, it's actually available everywhere. I mean, it can be seen on everything. But because of our ajnana, that is with respect to attachment, we are not able to sense the true nature of Brahman. So this was the concept of Advaita that was propagated by Adi Shankara. So he says the whole samsara is Maya. That is Mayavada. He says the whole samsara is Maya because it is an image that has been misconstrued. Like, for example, we see these um, memes, or not memes, some trivia kind of things on the internet or in on some videos where we find old photos which are futuristic in nature. That means we can find that somebody is holding something like a tablet, somebody who is holding something like a cell phone, etc., etc. This and these photos are like 50, 60 years ago, where those inventions did not even exist. How did they come into the possession of it? So these are misconstrued as that already existed, etc., etc. So that way, there are very high possibilities where the image that we are seeing, we are not able to understand it. So, like for example, somebody clicked a photo of uh, two siblings fighting. They might be play fighting, but to a person who sees the photograph, it's like these two are having a bad day. Something is happening over there. Some real fight is happening over there. That might be the understanding. So the images do not give us the right knowledge. So that is the understanding. So that whatever is the understanding that we are getting from that particular image is not true, and therefore that image is also not true, because uh, we have linked that to be to certain emotion. So therefore this whole samsara, which is an image, is not true. That is the Mayavada that has been posed over here. Then there it further comes into different. There are certain gaps which is again explained by Sri Vallabhacharya after some time. So this is one part of Advaita philosophy. Now, when we learn about this, when we learn the relevance of Advaita in this text, we know that Rama is also saying that the jnana is the most important thing, and it is the only true path to liberation, and it cannot be combined with anything else. So advitiyataha. So there are no duality. That is what he's trying to say. So we'll see a little more about Advaita in the next verse also. Astu. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण मही महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।